Hi, my name is Zhao. I am the Executive Director of the World Affairs Council of Kentucky and Southern Indiana. We are a nonprofit organization located in Louisville, Kentucky that promotes global awareness through international exchange, dialogue, and learning. Ahead of this year's elections, I had the opportunity to sit down with two of our candidates for mayor, Dieruf, the Republican candidate for mayor, and Greenberg, the Democratic candidate for mayor. We had the opportunity to sit down and talk about their thoughts on globalization and the international community in Louisville, which are issues that have not been discussed thus far in any of their conversations, debates, or forums. To get us started, let me set the context. More than ever, cities and city governments are leading the way on a number of global issues impacting our local communities. These days, those issues have gone far beyond the traditional priorities, scope, and resources of local governance. These include, but are not limited to, issues such as climate change, immigration and refugee resettlement, inclusive and accessible services for culturally diverse communities and populations, attracting foreign-born talent and foreign investment, just to name a few. This is a pivotal time and opportunity for our mayoral candidates to share their vision of what globalization means for Louisville, what their priorities, and in some cases, roadmap for making Louisville a welcoming city for all. The World Affairs Council will be asking these questions that you have submitted through our forum earlier on this last month. These questions reflect issues that are top of mind for you. And I want to thank you in advance now for all of your work and for sharing your concerns with us. I hope you will get something out of these conversations. Thank you. We're talking today because more than ever, as you know, Craig, that cities and governments are being asked to lead the way on many global issues,
Sure.
Right, that impact our communities. And a lot of these things go beyond the traditional scopes of local governance. And what we wanted to see during this time especially, it's a really good opportunity to kind of get a chance to share your vision for what globalization means for Louisville, and what your priorities and a roadmap, if you have one, of what that looks like as a welcoming city for all of us. So I just want to thank everyone who submitted their questions. This is a combined list of questions, so you know that you are hearing from the people. So today I wanted to start with business and economy. You are an entrepreneur and have had lots of success in business, right? Including helping start and build the 21C museum hotels, which has become internationally well known. And you have also done a lot to revive Main Street in Louisville. So with that context, how would you rate Louisville, our environment for foreign investment and companies as maybe compared to our peer cities?
Well, my aspiration for Louisville is that we be a welcoming city to everyone, whether they are new Americans that are moving to our country for the first time, whether they move to another city and want to be in a city where that is welcoming to people from around the entire country. We've done a nice job on that so far. We have a growing new American international community here in Louisville, which I think is critical. I think vibrant, successful cities of today and tomorrow are those which are diverse, welcoming, and inclusive. And so it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. I also want to improve our climate to be an investment location for folks that are internationally based that are looking to invest and create jobs here in America. And Louisville should be high on their radar. I should just say, by way of background, that my wife, Rachel, is a former English as a second language teacher. And so she taught at Wheatley Elementary School in the California neighborhood. And there we got a chance to get to know many new American families. And Rachel has stayed involved with the new American community and organizations that support new Americans, as well as initiatives including chairing the Mosaic Awards dinner that recognizes and honors new Americans that have made an impact here in Louisville. And so it's always been something important to my family and me, particularly being the grandson of a grandmother and a grandfather who fled Nazi Germany and who was escaping the hate but just before the Holocaust. that has always weighed heavily on me and been an important part of my life. And with that combined with Rachel's involvement, we have always tried to be supportive of new Americans here and want to do everything we can in my next role, hopefully as mayor, to support the new American community, help it grow, thrive, and succeed in every way, shape, or form.
Sure. So, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of room for growth and for improvement. What's an area that you can think of that you think that we can do better?
Well, I think there are two areas where we have to continue to develop. One is in terms of helping people integrate with the community when they first come here, and so supporting organizations like Kentucky Refugee Ministries, like Catholic Charities, like Jewish Family and Career Services, any organization that welcomes people here and helps them get acclimated. We also need to assist with legal services. We need to help with translation services, with educational services, so that people who come to our country and to our city for the first time have better opportunities to succeed. And then at the same time, I think we need to work to ensure that the global community outside of our country knows about Louisville, knows the strengths of our economy here, knows the strengths of our people here, and if they're looking to do business in America, is thinking about Louisville as a place to do business because the quality of our people, the quality of our location, and so much more.
Well, you're moving forward to some of my other questions later on, but we're going to stay on this, and we will get to some of those bigger questions too. But we had several questions related to the immigrant population. Certainly, you addressed some of those, and just the idea of how we can better engage the newcomers in some of that social, economic life, because they are a huge percent of our working population. I think there's a number that's 82% of the newcomers are of working age and highly educated. And then, as you know, Congress recently passed this bipartisan bill, Bridging the Gap for a New Americans Act. So I think the idea is how might you ensure some of these new Americans are able to really fully participate in this labor market?
In the labor market, sure. So one of, obviously federal law has a lot to do with that. One of the things I hope, two areas where I think we can focus on are workforce training to ensure that people who might come here have the skills and training they need if they need to, whether maybe they're too young or maybe if they've already been working in their home country. To ensure that they're most prepared so that they are able to work, they have those skills, and also education. We need to ensure that not just K through 12, but also Jefferson Community and Technical College, University of Louisville, Bellarmine Spalding, Simmons College, all of our educational institutions, whether K through 12 or post-secondary, are supportive of new Americans and can help them learn and have the skills that they need to have successful careers and have good paying career path jobs to support their families.
Actually that is a nice pivot to that education piece, because we talk about the K through 12, and we talk about a lot of the new immigrants coming into our schools. But what about our students here? How are they being educated in a way that will prepare them globally to be competitive, right? And to succeed.
All
students. Now, and we're, of course, there's the students coming in, but our current students.
We live in a very interconnected world,
right?
And so what happens in Ukraine and Russia today impacts people in Louisville. And I think that the more we can ensure that our students are educated about global affairs, both throughout history as well as in today's world, the better educated and prepared people will be to succeed, the more worldly they will be, which I think is a very positive thing.
It's important. Yeah, well, this kind of goes back because compared to many other countries, American students are kind of in the middle in terms of global competency, right? And we've, for many years, many decades, we've really been kind of had the power of the pulpit of sorts, right, internationally. So there's probably been less of a need for many to feel like I need to learn this language or I need to know about this country. But I don't know if you feel that that's still the case. Do we still have that supremacy in terms of our students?
I've always thought it's important. I do still think America is a critically important country in the world and has the dominant role in world affairs today. But I think it's important to have a general understanding of international affairs and what's going on in other parts of the world. I think that's very helpful for everyone. So I've always encouraged people, if they have the opportunity, whether they can afford it or whether they can find a program to support them if they're not able to afford it, to go see another country. That's just such a way to open your mind to whether it's a different way of living or cuisine or lifestyle or business, whatever it is, you will learn so much from traveling to another country and getting to know people who are very different from you. And so I just think having those experiences and that knowledge is critically important.
Right. And I know, obviously you're not in control of the school system, so there's not much you can do in terms of, our public school maybe.
Certainly as the mayor, you can advocate.
You can advocate, right.
School system.
And that's exactly, in terms of that advocating for that set of skills for them. Is that something that you're willing to commit to helping?
Absolutely. I've talked about advocating for stronger public education since the day I announced my campaign.
Sure.
I'm a proponent of making universal pre-K a reality so that every 3 and 4-year-old child has an opportunity to succeed in life, an advocate for strong workforce training. So those are all things that, to me, education is a key part of Louisville's future success.
Yep. Great. Well, let's talk about this, something that you alluded to earlier about, this increasing connection between our local and the global issues, right? As I had said earlier, we've seen in the past many years now the important role of state and local governments in impacting global policy. And one of the more, the ones that most people know about, maybe about climate change around the C40 cities, right? And then, of course, during the pandemic, local and state governments really were in, on the ground and impacting a lot of the outcome, managing the crisis, as well as the Russian war in Ukraine. The Conference of Mayors came out with a statement about that. So I just want to get your thoughts on, within this context of the bigger world, how do you see Louisville, operate? What is that? What does that look like? Do you see a role for governments, local governments, to have in foreign policy, for example?
Well, I think that, I think definitely for the people of Louisville to be aware of global affairs and to make their voice heard is helpful. For example, I loved it during World Fest a few weeks ago over Labor Day weekend, to see in the parade of countries and how many people, regardless of their country of origin, how many people were waving Ukrainian flags in support of Ukraine during this challenging time for that country. That was great. And I also think to ensure that other countries are aware of us would be really, really helpful. So, to me, that's all part of being a global citizen. I mean, just look how interconnected we are. We have a huge battery plant that Ford is doing a joint venture with a country in Asia, a company, based in Asia, to do that joint venture here in Louisville. I mean, it is so interconnected. Look at Toyota plant in Georgetown. We need to be doing business with the world to create good paying jobs here in Kentucky.
Right. And we want to make sure that we have a workforce that is also globally competitive and competent about those different cultures that comes in here, right?
I think a lot of people, my faith background teaches us to welcome the stranger. We are all strangers in a strange land at one point in time. And so, to me, I think it's critically important that Louisville be a welcoming city to everyone, regardless of their background, that we be seen and that we truly be an inclusive and diverse city. And that to me is extremely important if I'm fortunate enough to be elected the next mayor. Yeah,
and we'd love to hear how that would look in your administration. Well, similar to that topic, and full disclosure, the World Affairs Council's administers our sister city relationships.
Sure, okay.
So sister cities is a government to government, city to city, mayor to mayor relationship. We have 9 sister cities. I just wonder, what do you think about sister cities as a program or as a set of relationships, and how might you leverage that relationship?
I think they're wonderful. I think it's great opportunities, not just for business, but also for cultural exchanges, for student exchanges. And so I would love to not just support that program, see what the city and the community can do to strengthen that program. And if there are opportunities for new sister cities, in other parts of the world where there are unique relationships because of some other common interest, whether it's an industry that's unique to Louisville, or whether it's our climate, or certain, whether we have a recent large population growth from a particular country where it makes sense to establish a sister city relationship. Whatever the reason is, I would love to look at expanding the relationship as well.
Well, that's encouraging to hear from our end.
Okay, great.
But also how we can maybe restart some of the relationships we already have too. And just it's a good time to review all the things that we have right now, right?
I look forward to that.
That's great. Okay, so let's talk about very quickly your administration. The previous two mayors have all had offices for different names: international affairs, office for globalization. What may be different is that they're kind of situated in different parts of the administration.
Right.
The current one is in economic development. Of course, that means has a very different feel for. Maybe international affairs was much more broad, right? Broader than that. How do you see your administration if you were to be elected
So my
to support
focus
that?
over the next 41 days is to get elected.
Of course.
And so I'm not getting into details about what we're going to call particular offices or not, but I am strongly committed to this role, and I really see this office having three primary functions. One is economic development, as you just described, is to help work with countries around the world that want to invest in Louisville and create good paying career path jobs here. That's one. Two is programming, so things like World Fest, which is an amazing one. Louisville does festivals well, and one of our great festivals is World Fest, and certainly want to continue not just to support that, but to find ways to grow and expand World Fest and other programs like that. And then third would be, how can we strengthen our local organizations and other efforts that support new Americans who are moving into Louisville for the first time. So to me, those are the three key tenets of what this office and the city government should support.
Well, we're really excited to see what that might look like.
If there are other ideas, I'm more than welcome for more ideas as well.
Yes.
I love
input. That's good to know, because we have, as you know, we have a lot of communities, international communities here, lots of leaders very much advocating for the importance of globalization and global communities within our local communities. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to grow that. So we're really looking forward to seeing what comes, and best of luck to your campaign.
Thank you very much.
Before we leave, is there anything else any other comments you want to make about globalization?
No, I think we've touched on a lot in this brief conversation, just about my wife and my family's passion for this, my commitment to making Louisville a diverse, welcoming, and inclusive city, and also to work to make sure that Louisville is known around the globe as that type of city. The one thing I would mention is we have other great resources here and organizations here too, like the Muhammad Ali Center. Is there a way that the Ali Center can play a role in bringing in folks from around the world to address some of the biggest challenges that we see on a global basis? Let's have those conversations right here in Louisville. That would be a great way to put us on the map, working with our great organization that's already here in town in the Muhammad Ali Center. So that's just one of many things I'd love to explore, and hopefully I'll have that opportunity as your next mayor of Louisville.
Yes, well, and I will put in one last plug for us as well. The World Affairs Council does all of that international exchange, dialogue, and learning within this one organization located in Louisville, Kentucky, and we work with wonderful organizations like the Muhammad Ali Center and many other resources, really welcoming international leaders coming into the city as well as the region, and then having conversation on big topics.
That's great.
So we look forward to
working with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.